So today on the Prompt Life Couch, we're covering if your white collar job will even exist in the next 12 months, why companies don't care if you learn AI, and how to get your own AI training for free 99. So what's in the news this week, cousin?
So, in the news this week was a bold prediction from the CEO of Microsoft. His prediction is that most white collar work could be automated in the next 12 to 18 months. Not 5 years, not 10 years. It's coming. What do you think about that?
I'm on the fence. I mean, it was definitely a bold prediction, but I'm kind of on the fence about 12 to 18 months. I mean, a lot of companies haven't even gotten AI off the ground. I do think that they are secretly moving behind the scenes and putting in different processes and workflows that the employees don't know anything about yet.
hmm
But 12 to 18 months is bold. But I do like that he said it.
That's the other thing what stood out most to me. This is someone who is in the room. Like, this
Hmm.
isn't just, a faraway prediction. This is someone who is at the table, in the room, has a seat.
And I think it's giving you a window into at least the conversations that are happening, right? What they're thinking. And I really think it's a rude awakening because it, over 100,000 people have already lost their jobs this year.
Mhm.
I mean, we're 7 weeks into
Yeah.
2026. And so you can only imagine what's going to happen in the next 12 to 18 months. I mean, we're talking a million plus jobs, probably.
It's scary, but I think it gives us or it gives people, a runway to understand, um that, to your point, those that haven't embraced AI just yet, this is your time to begin to embrace it.
Yeah, when you say embrace, it kinda takes me back because I was thinking, I'm like, "What does this remind me of?" And so, my background is in my very first job out of college was in a manufacturing facility,
Mhm.
and we were doing robotics and automation and all those things, and so it really took me back to when robotics first got introduced into manufacturing, and so I went and, like, did a little bit of research because this was, like, in the '80s, so between the '80s and the 2000s, robots took over manufacturing, and 1.2 million people lost their jobs.
Good point.
And I'm like, "This is the same thing is happening again. It's just digital robots, essentially."
It's a new wave of innovation.
It's a new wave of innovation, and I think instead of, being scared of it or pretending it's not coming, it's how do you prepare?
Yes, how do you embrace it, and you look at what you can start to do differently. Um Companies aren't necessarily providing training. And so you have to, if you're using AI thinking your day to day, you have to start to figure out, where can I lean in? What
Mm.
part of my job can I start to embrace AI where I'm making an impact? I'm gaining time back.
Where I'm gaining time. And then I think one other point is that while jobs are going away, it's creating a lot of opportunity. Because if I go back to my robots taking over manufacturing example, out of the robots taking over became the software engineering boom.
Mhm.
All these other jobs were created, and so, to your point, where can you stand out? Where can you add value to your job? And then it's also, what are other opportunities of where, period, opportunities that don't exist right now that this could open up for you. So you already gave a little bit of like, what should people do? What should employees be thinking and doing right now?
Right now, I would say it is coming. So the first thing would be, take this seriously. This isn't, when I was a kid, it was the Jetsons, the flying
Hmm.
cars, the robots. Like, this is going to be our world. And so instead of shying away from it, truly lean in, figure out again, start with one tool, whether it's a chat bot, if it's just simple chat GPT, where you can start to learn this new innovation, and, history has, if it's done nothing else, it's taught us that, there's cycles of innovation. If you go back even to the wheel, the fire, the internet, it's something that we all have to embrace. It's going to change the way we work and the way we think. And so we want to ensure that we're still um able to contribute, and we're not just, we don't become a commodity. And so it, fully embracing it and then leaning into it.
And so the next question is, how do you do that, right? How do you embrace? How do you lean in? And I think the way you do that is figuring out what's hot, right? Get you a new source for AI,
Mhm.
figuring out what's hot, and then figuring out how to use AI to take your role to the next level. How can you do more? How can you be more valuable to the organization? And what I think is key is that the days of having to figure things out on your own are gone. So if you're sitting at home with a piece of paper and a pen and a pad, and you're trying to map out your career strategy to combat AI, like you've already kind of missed the opportunity. You should be talking to AI. Go to your favorite AI bot, ask, specifically, like, here's my job. How is AI going to impact my job? And how can I use AI to position or even possibly pivot myself so that I can survive this next transition? And then I think if you just want to take it to the next level, because Kiana's already doing this at her job, I think is really cool. You wanna start planting those seeds that, "No, I'm the AI person.
Mhm.
I'm already using AI." So
That's gonna take us into our next topic, but you're absolutely right. I think what we need to start doing for individuals who have maybe been fearful or who haven't embraced AI, but changing our positioning, how can I think along AI? I think that more than anything, you're thinking alongside AI. So AI is not doing the thinking for you. It's thinking alongside of you. You're still starting with the initial inspiration, the initial thought, how can AI assist me with my job? It's a learning partner.
so you talk about AI being a learning partner, and the big headline is that 88% of companies say AI skills are essential, but only 32% actually have training. And so that raised a lot of questions about the skills gaps and the workforce readiness. What do you think about that?
So when I heard this, the first thing, it's a mixture too. It's frustration and motivation. If as an employee, you're working for a company that makes a statement like this, that AI is critical, but then doesn't provide training, I'm frustrated. But I'm motivated because I know that I can get access to it. You can't go on the internet, on any social media platform, and not see something AI related. So this is the era of of being self-taught. You can teach yourself anything. So for me, it's a mixture of both. It's frustration and motivation. But to hear employers are requiring this and deciding that AI is an essential tool, it's almost like telling someone to dig a tunnel and then they don't give them a shovel.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I think that, but as an employee, again, you can use AI itself to actually teach you AI. And then there's a wealth of free resources, even Chat GPT. You can go in and get a guide to Chat GPT. There's a wealth of information, any tool that you want to use, they may even have a guide available. And then there's just a wealth of free courses as well.
I think for me, it kinda reading the headline, it took me in a different headspace, and I'm
Okay.
thinking, so people are frustrated that only 32% of companies are offering the training,
Mhm.
but the real is that companies are old and slow, and AI is fast. So think about how old and outdated company trainings usually are. They get a training and they run that thing for year after year after year. And the reality with AI is right now is that it's moving so fast. By the time they could even create a training, it would be outdated. And I think that's the real problem. I do think there's a room for like AI fundamentals or something
Mhm.
like that. But when it gets down to how to actually use AI to do a specific task, I just don't know if companies have the bandwidth and move with enough speed to get you any meaningful training.
Yeah, I for this, I play a little bit of a devil's advocate here because, I come from a very, you talk about a slow industry. When you think about like insurance and finance, I think, typically those are industries that are slow in
Mhm,
terms of, innovation. So I get for a lot of companies, there's concerns with AI governance.
mhm,
There's just some industries that are slower, but I think as employees, we need to have a mindset that our employer's hesitation isn't permission for us to wait.
mm,
So when you put that on the t-shirt, your employer's hesitation is not your permission to wait to
I love
engage
that.
into AI. So that's my take. We really need to look into training, um, and then, make it twofold, make it beneficial for you. So, if you're an accountant, if, whatever your industry is, use AI to help
Mhm.
you become more proficient. But waiting on your employer to train you is not going to be an option.
I think the key here is that AI being introduced into work and all parts of our lives, it's requiring us to think differently.
Mhm,
Things are not the way they used to be. So, back in the day, you start a job and you go to training for a full week.
mhm, and you get the big manual.
Right, whatever. You be in training for a week or 2 before you could actually touch anything, and that training would last you for years. But now, I just think with things becoming obsolete so quickly, like, there's no time to spend 2 weeks on training on something that may not be relevant in, the next quarter.
Yeah, and with so many tools coming out as rapidly,
Mhm,
I think for an individual, if you have an employer that is, has made a statement that AI is essential, at a minimum, there's at least maybe one AI platform that they're using. So if
mhm,
it's Copilot, I think for an employee, lean into that. Don't overcomplicate things. Lean into, if you're running on Microsoft, lean into Copilot. If you're an employer that uses Google Suites, lean into Gemini and start to perfect that. Don't overcomplicate it. But you certainly want to certainly lean into it. If it were me, when I think about um what I would be doing, I would be trying to find a use case
mhm,
that I could do, find one process where AI is significantly reducing either effort, time, both,
mhm.
and perfect that.
If that was me and I was feeling like my company wasn't gonna give me any training, I would pretty much do what Kiana suggested. I pick a tool and I get hands on. AI is not something that you can read about. It's like riding a bike. You have to get on and pedal. I mean, that's it. And then it's like once you pick up the skill, you never forget it. So that's what I would do. I think if you're sitting on the sidelines, you haven't gotten hands on yet. I think the key to being successful with AI is understanding clarity and context,
Mhm.
and that's where humans shine, right? AI doesn't it can't tell you what the what the output should be or what makes sense or what the audience wants or what actually works in your job. So if you stay on the forefront of the context and being very clear with what you need, once you get hands on with AI, you'll really be taking off like a rocket.
100%. So what I hear you saying is receipts, not resume. So it's
Mm.
not a matter of just a bullet point, if we used to, what was the tagline? Good at multitasking and, it's not enough to just say, have a bullet on your resume, AI,
Mhm.
strategic. You really need to have the receipts. And
Say
so
that.
find one use case, one process, and just practice until you get faster and until you start to see the ROI.
So, we are both always practicing and doing something hands-on. What were you practicing with this week?
So this week I've been working on a little cheat code. So we're talking about not being overwhelmed. So for me, I am, I started with ChatGPT. I have a ChatGPT business account, but I also use Claude. I jump around a lot, and so I wanted to go all in with Claude this week.
Okay.
And so, but I've been fearful. I mean, my life is in ChatGPT. So, not that I'm gonna cut the cord, but I do want to use Claude more. I wanna move into Claude Code and Claude Coworker. And so, for me, so this week, it's like, how do I make the transition from Chatty over into how do I add another friend to the circle? And so for this week, what I did was I was able to make the transition.
So, what's your final verdict on using Claude versus ChatGPT?
I think they both have a purpose, but I would say I would start to embrace Claude more. I think depending on what you're doing and understanding that different AIs have a different strain. So don't be hesitant to move work over. So I would say it's pretty simple. Again, you can go into typically any AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude. I would call it a simple task and ask for a markdown file, and then you can move that over into your new platform.
So, let's back up a little bit because um the audience may not have chosen an AI bot of choice. So, what was the decision behind I want to move from ChatGPT to Claude? What is
So for
behind that?
me, ChatGPT is more of my business strategist. It's good at mapping out. I give it. Um, it's not a career coach.
Maybe it's a career coach.
it is. It
Not a
is a
bad thing.
career. It is a career coach. For me, it's a business partner.
Okay.
It's more of a business partner. But when I'm looking at content,
Hmm.
I prefer Claude. And when I say Claude, I just mean just Claude AI. Now, Claude has just, increased. You have Claude Coworker and you have, Claude AI for vibe coding. And so I am embracing Claude more. And so I wanted to see if Claude can become more of that business
Okay.
strategist the same way that ChatGPT can,
Okay. So you want to eliminate ChatGPT because Claude, you want Claude to do content and strategy.
Yes, if we can all play
Okay.
in the same circle, in the same arena, I would prefer that. So now I have, because of Claude Coworker, with the
Mm,
connectors, not that ChatGPT can't do this, but because of the content writing capabilities of Claude, I'm spending so much of my time. So yes, if I can have Claude do the strategy as well as the content, without having to go back and forth and,
oh, yeah.
Claude with information from ChatGPT, for me, it's a win.
So if you haven't made a choice yet, what should they do? Should they skip ChatGPT? Or
Uh, I mean, for someone beginning, I don't know that I would say just actually try them both out,
Mm,
use the same prompt and see
okay.
which one you prefer. I think, yeah, I would say try them both out. There are some people right now that say chat is just, it's gonna be outdated. But if that's where you have excelled, I'd say continue with that, be open. But if you have an opportunity to build an ecosystem,
Mm,
and that's how I look at it. So I wanted to build out my ecosystem. So I want to try and fully embrace cloud.
love that.
And what have you been working on this week?
So, ironically, this week we were talking about how to remain relevant at work, right? Your
Mhm.
job may disappear in the next 12 to 18 months. So, I was actually working on a Gemini demo, and we'll put a link. We should have a video coming out about that will it be out? Yes. Okay, let me hear you say that. And I'll drop a card, is somewhere in this video so that you can go watch the Gemini demo. But I chose Gemini because most companies are either using Copilot if you have Microsoft or Gemini if you're using a Google, suite. And so we spoke about how to use AI to take your role to the next level, and so that's exactly what I did in that demo. I wanted to, I came up with 4 use cases of, how to make yourself the last one standing essentially at the end of this 12 to 18 months.
Mhm.
And so I just want to share my perspective on Gemini. I haven't historically been a huge Gemini fan. And so that's why I kind of forced myself to try a new tool.
Oh, I'm excited to hear.
And the other reason is because I think Gemini is very similar to the way you can use Copilot at work. So
Okay.
the tools, they're basically the same,
Mhm.
different interface, but you can do the same with both. So for me, and this is kind of like a behind the scenes of what I really thought after the demo. The good, of course, with Gemini is that it is integrated with Google, right? It has access to everything, your emails, your Google Drive, and it pretty much knows everything about you. And Copilot is the same way. So I think that's good. And it's free. Everybody has access to
Mhm.
Gemini out of the box. So those are the good things for me. The bad is that Gemini pops up, and I may pop in a screenshot here, but Gemini pops up on a side panel if you wanna operate it within your email, and you could not move the side panel. I tried, and so basically your email is over here, and you're working with this thin sliver
Mhm.
of side panel for Gemini, and I need to be able to move that.
Okay, so it doesn't give you that second screen like Copilot where you can work.
Well, you can pop out, right? You can pop it out into a whole 'nother screen.
Mhm.
But right here, even in other think about, like, your Microsoft layout where you have, like, your folders, your inbox, and your calendar, and you can move those things around, right?
Mhm.
Maybe I want my calendar bigger, maybe I want, whatever, and so I would expect Gemini to give me that same function. It did not.
Okay.
So that was a downside for me, and then the ugly. The ugly of Gemini. Because my thing is that if I'm gonna use AI for something, you know, I've been using AI for a couple of years, so I'm a little bit beyond, like, just give me an answer.
Okay.
I want you to do something, right? I want you to actually take something off my plate. And so Gemini was able to run a query and say, "Hey, Jerry, of these 900 emails you have, here are the ones you need to read. Here are the ones that are trash." And so of course I'm like, well, put them in the trash.
Mhm.
Put them in the trash then. And so Gemini comes back and it's like, no, I can't delete. I can't tag. Basically, I can give it to you. I can give you a list and you can go and do it manually. So for me, that's ugly. I'm like, no, we're using AI to do things now.
Mhm.
So that was my overall take. I think when it comes to ease of use, very simple. Anybody can, before you even go to ChatGPT, if you have a Google account, you need to open up the side panel of Gemini and get accustomed to speaking to it. So very easy to use. Impact on my week, it was not a game changer. I'm still not sold that I need to and put Gemini in my workflow. And then would I recommend Gemini? Maybe. If you're brand new, but by all means try it because it's free. But if you're looking for more of an assistant, it's a maybe for me.
Okay. So maybe there, and just to play devil's advocate, and you're not on the pro plan.
No, I have, and that was one of my questions because I have Google Workspace. So it's for
Okay.
a business account. It's the Gemini out of the box that they give you with a business account, basically.
Okay. So would your assessment be, because it's just the Gemini was the okay, but still open to Google's suite of other AI products? Because I know we're both fans of Notebook,
Yeah,
Atlanta.
I know they're connected, but those are 2 different products.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just I just don't have a need, like, and I think because of my technical background, there's always so many softwares there's a million ways to skin a cat, literally.
Mhm.
And so, just in my formal training is everything has to have a place, and it has to have a legit meaning.
Mhm.
'Cause, I mean, even just personally, right, we might have 5 different AIs we're using, okay, $25 a month. But from a company standpoint, they're spending millions of dollars, so every piece of software is
Sure.
like,
Mhm. Has
"What
to
we need
be
this for?"
Yes, has to be vetted, has to have a purpose.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think as people are hearing about, different platforms, different tools, you can get AI fatigue
Ugh.
very, very easily. And so I think for listeners, for viewers, don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel
Mhm.
like you have to lock into Gemini. Like I said, use that, use the same prompt. And if the answer out of Gemini is just kind of so-so, but you're getting a better response out of ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, continue to lean into that. Don't feel like you have to overwhelm yourself.
Speaking of overwhelm. So we're doing something new this week, and we've implemented a dear introduced, I should say, a Dear Prompt Life segment into the show because we get lots of questions in the community. We are all reading different things and just from people that we're talking to. So this week, the Dear Prompt Life question is, how do you provoke critical thinking? We are all starting to rely on ChatGPT and other AI bots. And I get that it's useful sometimes, but what about the way you slowly stop questioning things on your own? How do you handle that?
Mm,
What do you think?
I think this is real.
Mm.
This is a real concern that we all have. Some people aren't addressing it, and it's not a conspiracy theorist. This I can see this isn't someone who's saying I'm hesitant to embrace AI. They're saying I want to embrace it, but how do I continue to still think for myself? Um, I think one thing we have to understand, and when I think about this, and how do you provoke critical thinking? It's not an AI issue
Mm.
for me. When you think about any platform, I mean, AI is like Google, or if you are on any social media platform, you can't outsource your brain. You need to continue to think. So for me, I think of it, you're receiving data instead of processing it. So you should extend your thinking. It's not go back. It's the thinking partner. It shouldn't replace it with any tool. Question it.
Right.
First, verify the output. If you're working on something and ask it, where is this source coming from? But what we want to protect, there's some things, like, so for me, I have areas where I have protected space when it comes to AI. So I like to journal. So
Okay.
I'm not using AI to journal. That's my protected space. The thoughts
Mm.
that I put together initially in terms of journaling, they're my own initial, my critical thought. And then if I want to expand on it more, if I want to dive deeper, then I'll go into AI. But there's areas where um so that's my protected space. So for our community, that could be, if you're working on a project, kind of where you are in that brainstorming process. Like, do you initially brainstorm? Do you start with 3 ideas, 5 ideas, and then go into AI, or do you jump directly into AI? So, um, I guess asking puts you ahead. I love this question for the user that they're thinking about
Mhm.
this critically. So that's kind of my take on it. What
I
about
I
you?
agree. I agree with a lot of your points. I think the key takeaway is the first question is how do you provoke critical thinking? And I don't think critical thinking has anything to do with AI. I think critical thinking is still very much a human centered activity
Mhm.
because I think anyone can be a user of AI. And that's where you get this AI slop, where people just go ask, write me a post, write me an email.
Mhm.
'Cause that's when you're allowing AI to come up with the idea and everything behind it. But I think when you transition from just a user of AI to an expert user, you realize that the critical thinking is what gets you the very best. I mean, that's what pulls the best out of AI.
Mhm.
When you hit it with, like, no, this is the angle we're coming from, this is why we're doing it, and this is like the whole point. This is what I need people to gather from it. And that's the critical thinking step.
Right, you're actually processing the information, just not receiving it as the gospel.
Right. So after you've done the critical thinking, you basically just handed it off to an assistant and they came back with the output. Right. There I wouldn't give AI my entire workflow.
Mhm.
And I think that's the question that this person really has. How do you stop questioning things and stop seeing things for yourself? And I think you touched on this as well. You shouldn't take anything from AI as gospel. Question it like you would question a human,
Yeah.
right? Like if you were on a team at work and someone presented some data, you're not, if it doesn't sound right or make sense, you're going to have
Right.
questions. And that's how I talk to my AI. If they kick me out something, that doesn't make any sense. You need to think about that again. So I think that's the key. Question it like you would question a human. And it makes me think about that little, grayed out statement that's on everybody's all the chatbots IDE that says AI can make mistakes.
Mm.
That's what they're basically saying to you, that I'm not human. I don't have really good critical thinking skills. I make mistakes. Please do it. And I think the key takeaway is I don't think we should be looking at AI as a thinker, as a replacement for your thinker. I think of it more as a friction killer. Like once I have an idea, help me eliminate all the friction that can bring this idea to life. Like that's how I think about it.
Yeah, it's 100%, I would say, I'd say extended thinking. Like I start with my original thought and then I need it to help me extend my thinking. So, again, I think that was a great question. Keep them coming. Okay, cousin. So, we're testing tools, we're doing the demos, we're constantly seeing new features, new tools come up. So, I'm really excited to talk about a new segment. We're kicking off a lightning round. Want to hear rapid fire if you love it or if you leave it and why. All right, let's kick off with autonomous browsers.
I right now I'm leaving autonomous browsers. I think it's a privacy concern. I'm not. It's too big brotherish for me. I'm leaving it.
Okay, and then for the viewers, when we talk about autonomous browsers, we're saying an extension like Google that is essentially um, searching the internet on your behalf, bookmarking things. I'm with you. It's a leave it for now. I think that for me, the some of the concerns that I have, it's not worth the trade off. It's right now the accuracy. I think is still kind of inconsistent. So we are going to leave it. About let's talk about multi-model workspaces. So using Claude, using ChatGPT, using Gemini all in one workflow.
I'ma love it for right now. There are actually products that are coming out that will allow you to access all of those in one application.
Mhm.
So you log into your multi-model workspace and you have a ChatGPT chat, a Claude chat, and a Perplexity chat all in one space. I'm doing that anyway. So I have to say love it. I haven't gone out and got the count yet, but that would simplify all the windows that I have open on my
Okay.
computer.
So I'm a fan, I say that each platform for me has a different purpose. But I do think for new individuals that you have to be
Mm.
cautious because it can send you down a rabbit hole, if you're bouncing around. But I love the idea of being able to have them all together, to work on one workflow. So I think our takeaway would be, love it with caution. Don't want you to get lost in a rabbit hole. All right, let's look at AI certification. So we were talking about employers and training. What are your thoughts on AI certification? Is that something that you think is worth looking into right now?
I'm really on the fence there. But if I have to choose, I have to say leave it.
Okay.
I have to say leave it because I think And even going back to my career coach days, people rely too heavily on certifications. And this is a case where hands on experience is king. Forget the certification. Go into ChatGPT, tell it three things you want to learn how to do, and do it there.
Mhm. I would agree. I think the act of learning is good, and I think that's what you're talking about, like, get the actual action.
Hmm.
So the action is great, but if you're doing it with the sole purpose of a certificate that you think is going to do something, again, receipts, not resume. So we want something that is actually going to that's gonna have a ROI. So for me, I would say, explore on your own, but AI certification, I'm gonna say is a leave it. And then let's talk about last one, auto summarizing like every book, every podcast in terms of doing deep dives. So we've gone away from actually reading things in detail. We're just, I'm too busy. I'll look at the summary. Thoughts there.
It's a leave it for me because I actually like doing those things, right? I like reading books. I like listening to podcasts. And I think as powerful as AI is, one thing I'm being cognizant of is not to remove joy, right? And
Mm.
if I find joy in reading books and actually binging on people's podcasts on YouTube, like, I'm not gonna remove that joy just because I can. Now, if I'm trying to do like a research project where
Mhm.
I wanna take the key points from these 5 books and help me pull it out, and that's a love, but that's different from, that's more of a work thing. That's not a joy thing.
Oh, surprising. So I was thinking with your engineering background, I know how you think about processes. I was thinking you were actually going to go with a love it. So it was a leave it for me. And almost the same thing you were saying. For me, the depth is the differentiator. I think, in terms
Mm,
of reading a book, what you personally get out of something from your read of it is a lot different. I think about, old school cliff notes. We've all, back in the day in your early college years, you used some cliff notes and it kind of got you there, but you noticed when you were going into the essay questions, you just didn't have enough to
mhm.
really go in depth. You could skate high level. So I think it's a leave it for me.
So if you got a story, a question, or a hot take that you want us to put on the couch in our next episode, go ahead and drop it in the comments. We shared a bunch of things that you could do, a bunch of action that you could take today. So there's a link in the description to grab the action plan from today's episode so that you can get hands on with all those things we suggested. And when you grab that action plan, you'll get invited to our free live AI office hours, which is where we go through, answer any questions, and actually build things together because you've got questions and we've got answers. I'm Jerry.
And I'm Kiana, and this is the prop life.